Morning, good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody had a good trading day. Unfortunately, this week, I'm not really going to be trading a whole lot. I've got a whole bunch of stuff working in the background for the new website, kind of piggybacking off of what David posted over the course of the weekend in the announcements channel. So we're in the process of just finalizing our foundation series, which will only be available through the actual website itself. So yeah, working tirelessly on just kind of getting that dialed in. So until that's finished, I won't be actively trading this week as this is requiring a lot more of my attention. However, I did go over just EU's pricing. I haven't looked at anything else, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about EU and the position that was potentially available, depending, of course, sort of how you interpreted things. But I'm just going to talk about this in a little bit of depth. So let's just talk about what's happening on EU right now. So if you look at basically what's gone on over the course of the last couple of days, you'll notice that we have seen sort of like an order flow shift that's happened in this overall bullish direction. Now, the issue that I'm sort of having at the moment in terms of just being able to get involved with a bullish intention move is I'm looking at price, and I'm essentially looking at what the weak levels in the market are in terms of expectational order flow. And obviously, like, I'm sitting here looking at this low to be taken out at some point or another, and it looks like we're just building liquidity, kind of bouncing until we break. Again, this is just my thoughts. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to agree with me. But yeah, I'm just very, very skeptical of looking for longs up until we see some form of a liquidation with a very sharp shift on order flow to be able to look at potentially looking for a higher time frame order flow and trend shift. So I always like to play into what's already happening in the market. I am not trying to guess what's happening. I am very much just trying to weasel my way around to be able to get in at the most probable areas for reactions and trade into higher time frame order flow. So just FYI, in case anybody's watching and saying, I don't agree with the position that you would look at. I'm just going to talk a little bit further as to why I was able to get involved in this position. So right now, very, very simple. I mean, we're getting a reaction to the low. We didn't get a body closure below this level. I'm not super worried about that. Like I said, we're trading alongside with what the higher time frame is trying to do, which is punch in that new low. So what I'm going to talk about right now is in relation to how and again, it doesn't mean the trade is going to work out. I want to talk about it in the context of how our trade plan operates. So if we're looking at this, let me just kind of open up my 2 seconds. I just want to open up my flow chart. Okay, so what it mentions in here is this chart should only be used if you are trading the M15 Pro trend. So in this case, we have liquidated an area, right? We've basically taken liquidity from the market. We've taken out a weak low. We have liquidity built in the market. Right now, if you were to look at the chart, where is our structure sitting in relation to the 15 minute? Yeah, that's it. I mean, this should be, and again, this is just the 15. And you'll notice that the way that the flowcharts are designed, and they've been designed this way purposely, is to be able to get you more involved with intraday plays. Are these the highest probability trades in relation to H4? Not necessarily. That's what we're working on building right now. We're just trying to be able to show you what is possible by getting involved in these markets. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit further. Let's go into, identify H4 structure, right? So let's go to identify H4. Okay, so obviously this is technically unconfirmed structure right here. We have seen a change of character. So technically, we could maybe measure something like this and like this. You could see this wick break right here as a level that's, even though it's only a wick, it is still broken through. We are, again, playing into this higher time frame move that should essentially take out this level. So with that being said, I'm just going to show you how it is that I would have played this. And you can, make do with whatever the hell you'd like to do. I'm here to basically show you guys how I interpret these things, and whether or not you fully agree with it is entirely up to you. So 15-minute, so we've done that. Identify H4 POY that aligns with intended direction. Okay, so the intended direction, would you say the intended direction right now is up or down?
Down.
Down, right? I mean, until we're proven otherwise, until we get a structural shift that shows that order flow wants to continue in this direction upwards, we are going to continue to sell the fucking market until something tells us that we need to do something different. Don't be scared to take break evens. Don't be scared to take partials with a loss. Like, trade your fucking plan, right? The plan says if we are in M15 bearish structure, what are we doing? We're taking sells. When do we stop taking sells? Probably when this breaks, right? Levels of liquidity to take into the POI down here. Then we can start to look at order flow aligning and whether or not we want to take out these levels up here. That's it. There's nothing complicated. It's not a complex strategy. It's been purposely designed this way so that you can interpret it exactly the way it's supposed to be done. So in the case that can we agree that our structural levels are obviously across the group? Does anybody question that M15 structure swing points are from here to here? If you are in agreement with me, drop a 1. If you are in disagreement or need clarification, drop a 2. Cool. So we've got a boss, right? BOS. Done deal. Okay. So the next move in the market, right, is to come back up into a couple different regions, right? So what do we have here? Well, we don't necessarily have a super clear flip zone. Now, we do get interaction, and this kind of piggybacks on what Jeff was talking about yesterday. I believe what Jeff was mentioning was, we had interaction here. Why didn't we use this flip? We had unmitigated stuff. And again, when you get onto your lower time frame nitty gritty, you get to select just these better areas to kind of trade from. Just get a little bit of a better idea of what price is sort of trying to do. So I'm going to break that down. I don't want any questions till the end. The idea with me presenting all of this stuff is to try to get all these answers kind of out in the open. And then if there's questions, we can utilize my time effectively that way. So let me just go through with the process that I sort of built out here, and we'll go from there. So right now, we could view this as counter order flow just based on the fact that, we're reacting to an extreme. Be mindful that when we put ourselves in a counter order flow state, it just puts an added layer of protection on top of what we're already doing. That's all it's meant to do. It's nothing, out of the ordinary. It's very simple, actually. So let's go to the 4-hour, and I just want to go like this. So if we look at this level, we don't have a clear POI sitting on here. So what we'll do is we'll just drop down to a 30, maybe have a quick look. So you can see on the 30, and we'll just refine down from there, right? So you can see this clear up move that pushes. Would you refine to the wick? I know somebody's sitting there asking that. Would I? Probably. I would probably have something down like this, right? Reasonably so, right? This is an area in which it takes liquidity. So let's just map this guy out and then further understand how we would refine this. So let's go down to the 15. So the first thing I noticed with the 15 is supply and demand never come from one specific candle, right? So if you look at this right now, and you had to make a refinement, bearing in mind that we are going to make further layered in refinements on the 1 minute, 2 minute, and 3 minute, where would you refine your candle down to? And don't look at mine. I want to know where you would. And this is not necessarily my refinement. There we go. So I would say reasonably, I would probably have this entire thing sort of sitting here like this. Now, if we need a level of liquidity to take from the market, where do you think we're going to induce? Left-hand side. Bingo. There's a big fucking indication there for you. How many people in smart money are looking to trade this level right here? Probably 80%, right? I think it would be reasonable to say that a good percentage of people would be looking to trade this. Now, if we look at this level right here, okay, let me just get my POY flow chart out. Okay, options. How do I? Give me a second. POY. Where is POY flow chart? There we go. Okay, give me 2 seconds. I'm just opening this guy up. Okay, so POY flow chart. Okay, POY must break structure. So, do we break structure? Let's say we break sub, right? Break some substructure here. So that's reasonable. We get a break. We also break our swing point at the highest point from up in here, right? So that's a reasonable area to start looking. Now, what we need to do is start to correlate the rest of our rules. POY must be in the premium or the discount of the leg. And in this case, because we're utilizing a 15-minute trade idea that doesn't necessarily correlate with 4 hour, and it doesn't necessarily have higher time frame intention behind it, are we in the premium? We are. So that ticks that box. Okay. Should POY come from a buy to sell or sell to buy candle that is fully engulfed by the next? We could argue and flip between time frames to make this make sense, right? We got this nice engulfing candle, so we could probably refine this guy down to something like this and say, like, yeah, you know what? Ultimately, maybe we could start looking in here. POY must build lower time frame liquidity. Okay, we've done that. POY must build lower time frame liquidity. This is better known as a level to be induced or swept. This is typically shown through equal highs or equal lows. POYs can come from supply and demand into supply zones as well as extremes. Okay, so this ticks the boxes. Does anybody know what this is missing? It doesn't come from an area that takes liquidity, right? Now, we've got all the pieces of the pie. So, I mean, in theory, okay, like let's just theorize this just for a second. In theory, let's say we took this, okay, and we failed to see that it didn't take liquidity. It comes from an area that it does. So we could essentially play this extreme and call this our decisional within this region, right? So in the case that we look in here, let's go down to our 1 minute, okay? Okay. You'll notice something in here, right? So if we're looking at a 15-minute POI and we're assuming that we're counter order flow because we're leaving from a level that could potentially show a deeper pullback, what level needs to break for us here for us to be involved in a trade? Okay. So was there any criteria? Obviously not. So this is invalidated in here because we have failed to take out any sort of demand. If supply cannot take out demand, what does supply become? It becomes weak, right? It becomes inducement for a higher level. So I just want to break that down. Man, all of this stuff is so clearly outlined for you guys. Just remember, follow your fucking rules. And a big part of this might have to do with it not coming from a sweep, but the bottom line is there was no entry criteria for us to get involved, okay? So what are we looking for? Okay, ultimately, what do we have that's above the level that we could induce? You got involved. That's cool. Do you understand what went wrong though, Jeff?
Yeah, so I saw a 5-minute, 5-second entry, and I got in, and
Okay.
I had the buy to sell. Like I it's okay. Like as I was trading it, I didn't realize, or the big mistake was that this was weak. But I
Mm-hmm.
basically saw this,
Mm-hmm.
then I saw
Tricky, eh?
this, and then I took that,
Yeah.
and then I ended up getting in here. So it was all good in the end, but that's kind of besides the point.
Yeah, just trading from a weak level, right? I mean, ultimately,
Yeah.
like everybody's so concerned with getting in, and man, if I'm being honest, if this was on, there we are Monday. If I would have traded today, I almost guarantee I would have taken this.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
just because I haven't traded all weekend, right?
Yeah, it
So I
was,
probably
but now like the weak level was a huge thing because yeah, yeah, it was a good lesson for me. I mean, it was only one loss, not a big deal, and
not a big deal.
we made it up. But my point is, it should have never happened in the first place.
That's right. That's right. I mean, and this is, the whole process of kind of going through these every single day, talking about them and making sure that we're all on the same page. So as long as you're on the same page, I'm going to continue. Anybody else get involved around this level or in this general area? And if you did, throw a 1. If you didn't, put a 2. That's good. That means most of you guys are paying attention, right? Went break even ASAP. I mean, there you go. That's it. That's all. So everybody understands. Drop a 1 in the comments if you understand that this is a weak level to trade from. Cool. It's the Mondays, man. Do not let it set the tone for your week. Understand why it was a shitty area to trade from. Go back and build your case study. And remember, building a case study is only one part of the equation. Going back and actually playing this through and back testing the case study, that's where you're going to be able to get involved with some really, really high probability areas. So all this to say, what I'm going to be looking for further now is saying, okay, like nothing built criteria there. So let's zoom back out. I'm going to show you a couple different ways it could have got involved, of course, depending on how you viewed order flow, whether we were pro or counter, totally up to you. Obviously, we get a 15-minute chalk to a certain degree here to pull back. But because we left from sort of like this relevant level over here to the left-hand side that did in fact create the order flow shift, I was just a little bit skeptical about whether or not to treat this as pro or counter if I would have actually been involved in the trade. So now, with all this being said, now that we have no level to induce up in this premium area, we can understand that this is now the level that could potentially get induced, right? So if that's the case, we could start to refine this up to a level, oops, just above this. So I keep the whole zone, typically how I like to roll with it. And then what I'm going to do is jump down onto my 3-minute, right? And just kind of buzz over here and look at what's going on. So I've got a couple clear POIs. You can kind of see the extreme that obviously takes liquidity, remains unmitigated, right? So if that's the case, we come all the way over to here, right? Okay, so we're sitting here like this. Beautiful, okay? Now, the other way that you could have possibly got involved with this would have been, okay, we could see that we have this demand to supply zone. You can see the small take on liquidity. Let's go down onto our lower time frames. Let's see what we have in here. Okay, so if we have built up liquidity sitting here like this, right, we're expecting this to get induced. Anywhere that you guys see that you could pull a POI from. If not, don't mark anything. If you do, let me know where you think. Okay, cool. Possibly. I mean, you could possibly maybe look at this is probably some second stuff in here, interaction. I'm not like super sold, to be honest with you, when it comes to stuff like this. And I'm just like, you know what? Like, I'm not really that sold on what's going on in the market. I'm trying to essentially ensure that I'm getting in at a very high probability area. If I don't see anything super clear, guess what? I'm not fucking getting involved. I can't justify this POI personally. If you can, and that fits into your trade plan criteria, be my guest. I know a lot of guys look at just above liquid regions. Personally, with an unmitigated extreme, I am very, very skeptical about getting involved at these areas. Questions will be at the end, guys. Let me just kind of go through this. Like I said, I want to be able to run through this quickly and then get to some questions. I got a really, really busy afternoon. So in the case that we essentially break down, right? We essentially liquidate these highs. We tap into the 15-minute POI. Now, if you were counter order flow, there's a few different ways that you can sort of look at this, right? Now, I don't want to say read between the lines because I've been getting a lot of flack in my inbox and my DMs, but this is one of these moments where you are trading this pro trend aligned alongside with higher time frame order flow. We're looking to get involved. We're basically trying to take this into a 15-minute week area. So on the first change of character, right, we get the initial tap in, we pull back, we push in, and then we get the chalk. Okay. Do we need to take our trade right here? No. Right? So let's go. I just want to see on the 15, see what ends up happening in this region. Oops. Okay. So if we waited, right, and we viewed this as counter order flow, right, our demand failure essentially happens right in here, right? So when demand fails, 15-minute demand fails, it fails from here. Here's our interaction. Now you'll notice that there's no take on liquidity. So let's go down onto our lower time frame and see what's going on in this region, right? Okay, demand to supply. One of the yeah, so this doesn't necessarily come from a suite, maybe not the cleanest setup. Would I still take this? More than likely, but ultimately what I am looking for in here is that we have an unmitigated extreme sitting up in here. So we get the initial tap, we push down, we want to be able to take out the early sellers, which is ultimately in this region right here. So in the case that you would look for a potential entry, the first entry that I would look for would potentially be in this region. Now, one of the things that we would potentially be in violation of in this flow chart is if we are pro trend, right? We have now established pro order flow, correct? Now, after the 15-minute chalk. If we're looking at this and this comes from a flip zone, maybe you can call this a take on liquidity that pushes up, matches the high, pushes down, whatever. If you're looking at this zone and we see this initial tap and this initial tap right here, what do we need to see in order to validate this 1-minute POI? In terms of the flow chart, once the initial tap happens,
Sweep of liquidity.
yeah, we need to see some form of a take, right? So once we are confirming a 1-minute area, right, 15-minute order flow is already switched. Now, you could ultimately look to throw a limit on something like this if you wanted to. Ideally, I would be looking to probably confirm this a little bit further. So once we get the initial tap in, right, so your first level would technically be, okay, we want to see this get swept. Once this sweeps, can't remember if there's a 5-second entry. I think there is. Once this sweeps, okay, and we're coming up into this level, what are you doing? You're monitoring the 5-second. If we're at a do or die area of the POI, we cannot go any higher. We cannot mitigate any further. What's the options here? Yeah. I mean, if you've taken everything you need out of the market, right? You've liquidated the equal highs that are literally inducing this POI. Do you notice anything to the left-hand side? What do we have? What's across the lows? Come on. What do we got here? That's a lot of available liquidity to go after, right? So if that's a lot of, we have liquidity to also take from the market, right? So this is like the huge thing. When you think of LTT and LTT, you have to think about these things, right? So how many of you guys got involved on this right here, liquidity to take into the extreme, and got involved like this? This is still a not bad trade, to be honest with you. we swept into here, we had order flow shift, we had all this. I think this is a reasonable area. Stop, as long as you're stopped now, you have to remember your trade idea, the foundation of this trade idea comes from this area right here. So making sure that you covered this level above this inducement would have been the only way to get involved, at least in my opinion. Now, again, I know this is, up for interpretation. You could potentially do this, could potentially do that, maybe take your first L in here, and then you would have missed out on this. So just remember, if you get your initial tap in, and we just to say take liquidity from something like this, like by like 2 pipettes, just make sure that if you have an unmitigated extreme that is resting above here on the 5 second, you see this beautiful extreme that is not tapped into, be mindful that we could very much venture up there and just cover this level. That's all. Okay. And I think if you would have got involved with this and you would have basically put your limit order basically just resting above this level right here, you can see, I think we have like I don't even know what this is. What is that? 2.5. I mean, you could have given yourself a 3 pip easily. 3 pip stop, away she goes. But the way that I probably would have gotten in, again, on a Monday, if I'm being transparent, I probably would have got involved on this guy as we kind of brushed up into this level. But I would have gave myself a chance to cover this high. In the case that I got aggressive with it and I backed out, or if I didn't get aggressive with it, I would look after the sweep for this first bearish engulfing, or some form of a sell stop just happening right below this demand level, and then giving myself some room above the top right here. So again, bunch of different ways to be involved with the trade, understanding everything from that 15-minute and understanding order flow, what was required for order flow to realign, especially because we were leaving from a structural low on the H4. Counter order flow probably would have been the best fit for this. And ultimately, because we didn't react to anything very specific in the 15-minute POI, i.e. a 1 to 3 minute refine zone, just look for the 15-minute order flow realignment. Look at what's caused it. Very simple. If the flip has caused this to break down, you can play the flip. If the flip did not cause it to break down, don't be looking for some random bit of price in here. Wait for the extreme to potentially get met. We could very easily come all the way back up to the extreme, but we're going to play the flip just like we would on our top-down flow chart. Does everybody give me a thumbs up of approval on breaking down this trade candle by candle with the 5 second all the way up to the 15, and just understanding how we could have potentially got involved here and possibly gotten involved here for the winning trade? Cool.
Yeah, so I got in, but I ended up going break even when that high was swept.
So you
I got in here.
Yeah,
took a break even here.
Yep, fair enough. Hey man, did you get involved with this though?
I did not, because I was involved already higher up. I got involved earlier.
Fair enough. I mean, as long as you when you get involved with stuff like this, the only thing you have to remember is that if we have unmitigated stuff, and these are little details in the 5 second, right, that you'll see, you can just see that there's a little level to induce here. I mean, it's easy. Just let the market do its thing. Keep yourself trailed above here, even trailed above this level if you wanted to. Who cares? 4 pip stop, not a big deal. The trade idea is valid, right? Let it do its thing. And if it doesn't work out and it goes to the extreme, look for realignments, right?
To be fair, once I went break even here, I figured if these equals were taken, these equals would have been taken, and we would have gone to the extreme. That's what was going through my head at the time.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, ultimately, like the bottom line with this, guys, is like we got the initial tap. We did not get our sweep. So if you don't get your sweep, just wait for it to happen. Typically, we're going to induce the original tap in. Once that actually happens, then you can get involved with your sell stop, or potentially wait for a chalk and flip, whatever it is that you'd like to do. Took a 1 minute sell stop after the sweep. Amazing. Yeah, as long as everybody, and again, sell stops are really, really, really favorable when you come into these extreme areas of those POIs. Typically, it's like a do or die moment for the POI to hold. If we get that really nice reaction, which would have happened probably on this level right here, I'm more often than not pulling trigger on the bearish engulfing that happens, especially after liquidating these highs. We are at least going to come back into this demand range. And if you just move over to break even and we come back up and the trade idea ends up coming back down and we do something like this, and then sweep back up into here, then we can start to look for that same criteria again with liquidity to take and something to target. So don't be scared if you get taken on a break even and it runs 100R or runs 50R or 10R, 15R. Risk management above everything else. You are pulling trigger on criteria when it's met. And that's basically as simple as our fucking trade plan works. Who else had a question?
Can you hit the 15-minute?
Yeah, just give me 2 seconds.
So I basically followed the same process as you did, with the exception that my 15-minute POI was this buy to sell area.
Okay.
And that's how I identified it. Now, and then what I did was I basically took this wick here as my 2 refined area. So I basically had 2 POIs on my chart.
Right.
Am I off base, or should I just kind of wait until I get a reaction?
Yeah. So like, I mean, the way that I typically look at these things is that, like, I'm looking for levels of liquidity to take in, right? So typically that's going to come from here. So I would want to be above here. So how I would have my POI would probably be literally just mapped out across this high right here and right here.
Yeah,
So that
that's what I started doing on the lower time frames.
Yeah,
Like
and then you exactly. So then you start to, because you're just trying to get an overall feel on the 15, right? We're trying to refine down to be able to essentially say, okay, like what's happening on the lower time frame. Ideally, we want to see a 1-minute refinement or a 3-minute refinement or a 2-minute refinement. And if that doesn't happen, we're just going to look for a realignment to happen so that we can start to get involved, right?
Okay, and then last question on the 1 minute, if you could hit the 1 minute. So if we just look at order flow as this high was made, so the way I was, yeah, no, to the right. Yeah, okay, so basically I saw this sweep, this box, then I saw this sweep here, buy to sell, sweep induced, and then basically this here. Now the problem was we didn't get this at the time, but I saw, you know, the liquidity to take, the liquidity taken, and the high probability POI. So that's essentially where I got in, is I got in this area here.
Right.
Am I pulling the trigger too early?
Well, and again, like,
just because it worked out this way doesn't mean I'm not.
Yeah. So I guess my question to kind of follow up on this would be, did you view this as pro or counter order flow to be able to trade this?
I saw this as the break of order flow and the realignment.
So in terms of 15-minute though, right? Because
15-minute for sure I was counter.
Yeah. So if you're counter order flow, right? The idea is that if we don't hit a refined area in here, we need to see a 15-minute chalk.
But that buy to sell wick was a refined area for me.
That buy to sell wick on the
15 that I was just talking about.
So a refined
on the 15-minute POI.
A refined area needs to come from a 1, 2, or a 3-minute.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, man.
Awesome. Yeah, refined is 1 to 3. You can go up to like a 4 sometimes, maybe even a 5, depending on how PA looks. But yeah, ultimately, if you look over to the left, like I said, if you looked at this little area right here as maybe your buy to sell, I mean, that would be logical to a certain degree. Know that you could potentially get yourself in some losses. I typically want to see a 15-minute POI get topped. I want to see order flow realign. I want to see liquidity taken from the market and then be able to have a bunch targeted. That's, again, just my textbook way of doing it. Do I force rules sometimes? I would be lying if I said I didn't. I think everybody sort of does that, right?
So just from an operational standpoint, so if you're sitting at the market and price is here, you have an alert set here.
Yeah.
The alert is triggered. Then you have an alert set here.
Yeah.
The alert is triggered. And then what's your next kind of your step? You map out your areas. So
yeah, well then I'll mark out my areas. Yeah.
So at this point you recognize this is the case, this is the extreme, your next alert is set here, or is it on the lows?
I'm monitoring at this point.
Okay, you're just
yeah. So once I get to a 1-minute area, so basically how my alerts would work would be, okay, tapped into 15-minute POI, okay, 15-minute chalk. I would also have one for refined POI to basically trigger me to go onto a 1 minute. So once I hit this, I would be on the 1 minute monitoring for that chalk and flip to actually happen, level of liquidity to take, boom, and then target. And then furthermore, if we don't hit that level and we get the 15-minute, I'm mapping out where my 15-minute low is, putting my alert. Once we break the low, that cues me to be onto the 1 minute.
Gotcha. All right.
Make
Thank
sense?
you. Yep.
Awesome. Cool. I was waiting for that high to be induced. Didn't think that the previous high was enough. And because I saw this counter order flow, I didn't move to 1 minute to see that liquid zone. Was I too careful? I mean, I just kind of broke all that down too, Alex. I mean, ultimately, there was criteria that developed for us. And it was on the fact, or because of the fact that we did see that demand failure in this zone. Once demand fails, we want to start asking ourselves, what was the reason that this actually happened? The first reason was here. The second reason would arguably be something up in here at this point. And then we could potentially look for trades at both of those areas, depending on how the seconds line up and correlate with our flow, our top-down flow chart. So if you didn't, I might have been a little bit cautious. I'm going to ask the group. Does anybody think that this is too aggressive of a move? Drop a 1 if you think it's aggressive, and a 2 if you think that this is a reasonable move to get involved at this area. So, and again, this isn't to put Alex under the bus. I think this is just so that everybody understands where we sit. I think it's really important to understand these things, especially in hindsight, so that we can start to build these together once we're actually looking at the live market. And again, this is only because it is pro trend. Exactly. So just remember, we're playing into the higher time frame intention. You really don't have a whole lot that's stacked up against you. Yeah, we're getting into the discount of the overall leg, but ultimately we're maintaining this 15-minute bearish order flow in terms of swing structure, and then just looking to realign on the corresponding time frames. Yeah, Jeff, clear your marking, please, bud.
Oh, sorry about that.
No worries, just the pink one, I think. Cool. So yeah, that's basically all I'm going to break down today. Like I said, I didn't even look at anything else. If I go through it a little bit later on today, maybe I'll make a video if there was something. Again, I'm not going through everything. This is a nice, clear setup. What we are going to start doing in the next couple weeks, and some of you guys are going to be a little upset, but we need to start making this make a little bit more sense, is I'm going to start probably spacing these out on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, having 2 days in between to be able to I mean, if there's no trade taken, or if there is a trade taken, we'll just review it on the following day. I want you guys to be a little bit more self-sufficient. We're starting to move and progress as a group. My time is becoming, very spread thin, especially with the development in the website and the curriculum. We're trying to get involved with assigning more weekly homework. So in order for this to kind of grow into what the vision is, that time needs to kind of come from somewhere. So we're going to be fine for this week, probably next week, but I'll keep you guys posted. We are going to start spreading these trade recaps out over the course of Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then what we'll do is we're actually going to be moving, and again, this won't happen this week. It'll probably happen in a few weeks from now, but just to put the bug in your ear, we're probably going to move the, what do you call it? The live trading session over to Wednesday. And then we're probably going to do the Sunday narrative, or sorry, the Sunday projection or Sunday forecast, as well as the case study building session on Sundays, just to kind of disperse us a little bit more through the week, and also give you guys a chance to really be able to kind of think for yourselves. So on days like the Tuesdays and Thursdays, whatever it is, again, this isn't set in stone right now. It's just something that we're going to be looking into possibly doing in the next few weeks. It's to be able to get you guys to still, you'll still have the outlook every single day. That's not going to change. That's always going to be something that we're going to do to be able to show you guys what we're looking at in terms of POIs. But yeah, just looking at recaps to do this every single day, it does take up, and like as this community grows and grows and grows, it's going to start taking up a lot more time with questions and stuff like that. We're also going to have a questionnaire, or Dave, do you have 2 seconds to jump on to explain what we're going to do for questions at some point? I'm not sure if he's available or not.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Yeah, so one of the things that we were looking at doing to kind of streamline things a little bit and also to help you through the learning process is instead of just having sort of an open discussion on these types of calls for Q&A portions of like, hey, what about this? What about that? Is potentially creating a form where you have to fill it out, where you include your question and relevant markups and charts and whatever needs to be, addressed, and then you submit it. And then, once or twice a week, Tyson would be able to go through and address why, that was or wasn't a valid way to approach that trade or whatever it was. And that's just because the more effort you put into asking your question, the more likely you are to actually understand where you went wrong to begin with. And it forces you to kind of consult the flowcharts and like go through the actual steps and be like, oh, I see why, you know what I mean? So you actually learn without having to even ask the question some of the time. And that's not to say we don't want to answer questions or anything like that. But like Tyson said, our vision is to scale this community and to be as helpful as we can to as many people as possible. That is potentially a solution that we might be looking at. So again, nothing set in stone, and we'll give it like a test drive and see if that works for everybody. But yeah, that's something that we were considering putting together for you guys as a way to help learn as you ask.
And I think we're going to have like a beta testing kind of thing for everybody who's involved right now. We're still going to do the Q&A and stuff like that, but we want to see how and if this essentially helps you guys, because it's not only to alleviate pressure from team members or coaching staff or whatever it is, it's also to be able to get you thinking about the more you structure your question and the more specific your question is, typically you can find the answers on your own. And the whole idea is that we're here to hold your hand to a certain degree, but at some point you're going to probably be on your own trading. And the idea is to get you into that transition of being able to understand why things are happening in the market and answering your own questions. And again, this isn't to just like sweep people under the rug. It's actually to build a more solid foundation in the community to be able to actually have people think for themselves and be able to progress a lot faster, at least the way that we see it. So we're going to do a beta testing. Again, this is a few weeks away, possibly even a month or two away. But yeah, we're looking into just some other solutions to be able to get you guys really thinking about what you are doing to be able to, and we'll still do Q&A sessions and stuff like that. Where again, we're all up in the air. We're just kind of having an open discussion or just letting you know what the plan is in the foreseeable future, so that you guys can understand where we're going and why we're going the direction that we are. So that's it for Nick's got a question. Go ahead, Nick.
No, I'm all good, Ty. Dave kind of answered what I was going to ask, so no problem.
Okay, brother.
One more thing there, Tyson.
Yeah.
It also, like the concept of having the form that you fill out, it also gives people who can't make the calls live an opportunity to ask their question in a structured way where, we have a consistent way of getting back to people, whether they're able to catch the live or not. So that's another reason that we were looking at doing that, is because, there's 129 people, I think, or 126 people in the community right now, and there's 21 on the call. So it's just the time zone thing. Not everyone can make it. Not everyone has time or bandwidth to attend these things live. So it's just another way to, ensure that everyone can ask a question.
Exactly. I mean, we have everybody's, like we have your priorities in mind, right? And ultimately it's to be able to trade this system effectively. Again, we're not trying to short sell anybody. We're just trying to make sure that we are catering to the most amount of people possible in the group and essentially get you thinking for yourselves. So I'm going to let you guys go for today. I will see you guys tomorrow. What I am actually going to do, just while I have everybody on here, I do have to move our Friday call. So our 2 Friday calls again this week. I'm heading up to my hometown to go visit my parents for the last time this summer. I also have family who's here from Melbourne, Australia right now. They're here for 6 weeks, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time with them. So all we're going to do is shift over to Thursday for our live trading session, or Wednesday. I'll look and see which day has the least amount of news. And then what we'll do is on the Sunday, I believe we're going to do the market look ahead as well as the case study building session. Are there any news regarding the potential switch to Vimeo? Sorry, go ahead. So for Vimeo, yeah, I'm hoping to talk with Dave either tonight or tomorrow. But yeah, things have seemed to be a little bit better with YouTube in the last couple days, actually couple weeks. But yeah, we're looking to switch over at some point or another. So I'll talk to Dave tonight or tomorrow whenever we link up next, and we'll try to get that done. I actually made the account for it. It's just a matter of getting used to actually uploading and all that kind of stuff. So go ahead, Nick.
Ty, is there any chance I can ask that, like, when we move to this, that if you take a trade, you just like circle it, put it in the Discord and say, hey guys, I took a trade here, and don't show anything. So we can go ahead and do a case study beforehand, before actually coming and having questions.
Yeah, so can you just explain that one more time? I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. Cut out a little
Yeah,
bit.
you now want to move to 3 days a week. So if you take a trade on a day that's long before, you can just say, hey guys, I took a trade, yeah, circle it, drop it in there, no markups, and then we can go and do a case study before we even come to the.
That might be a good idea. And that will alleviate a lot of the questions as well, right? Because you'll actually be able to swing the hammer by yourself. My God, Nick's going to be a fucking team member there pretty soon, I swear. Whether he likes it or not. Good
And
idea.
we can
And I
come with
really like that.
questions, we can drop stuff in the Discord before, we can actually get a lot of stuff answered, and then there's more people as well to.
Right. Okay. So you know
Yeah.
what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open up. Yeah, I'll create a channel specifically for that, and then that way you guys don't necessarily even have to post the homework or anything like that. But yeah, exactly. You'll kind of familiarize yourself with where the trade kind of comes from, and yeah, I think that's going to alleviate a lot of the questions. Great idea, Nick. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Cool. Okay. That's it, guys. I'm done. I'm done for today. My voice is crackling here. I've been recording videos all fucking day long. Foundation series is almost done. So we're just waiting on the final bits of the website. Yeah, so hopefully in the next week or so. So everything should be done. It will be done probably tomorrow afternoon. Yeah, so we're gonna have to talk to the guy who's building the website and see how quickly we can get logins and stuff like that. But yeah, it's coming. It's very, very close. I'm not posting anything in the Discord. This is kind of like our little sacred area in which we, interpret everything that we do in the market. So it's only going to be available through the locked member platform. But yeah, we'll get into that in the next, hopefully 2 weeks. Fingers crossed. But yeah, thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate all of you guys. And yeah, we'll catch you guys tomorrow. Have a good one and safe trading.